So, hello everyone. My name is Ruth. I'm a social worker and I'm currently in the position of Deputy Team Manager. And I work in a team that supports people with mental health conditions who require support from adult social care.
So I'm just going to say a little bit about me. As you can see, my name is Sally. I'm an operational team manager within Essex County Council Adult Social Care, and I work for a neighbourhood team.
Thank you. So, I'm going to introduce Beryl to you. And this is an example of one of the cases that we've had at some point. So all the names are anonymised, just to reassure you, so that there's no way to identify this person. So I'm going to call our lady Beryl, and Beryl is 80 years old, and she's a white British lady. She has interests. She loves birds, and she likes to sit and watch the birds out of the window. Previously, when she worked as a secretary, and when she was at the age of 62, she retired. Beryl also used to volunteer at her local church and in her local community. Beryl had a pet cat who was called Peter, and he sadly passed and died some years ago. So, Beryl's current situation: she currently lives in a residential home. She's cared for in bed, which means that she spends all her time in bed. She's not able to mobilise very well. And so, all her care, her personal care, is provided with her being in bed. Beryl has a daughter who visits twice a week. So Beryl has been assessed to lack capacity, and that's around the decision about her care and support needs. So she hasn't got capacity to make decisions to say how she wants her needs to be met. And so a best interest decision was made, enabled to support how her needs can be met, and these are anticipated for Beryl.
Thank you, Ruth. So a safeguard has been raised as Beryl's daughter has found her mother as not having had personal hygiene tasks completed. This means she hasn't potentially been washed and changed, and she hasn't had her continence care. She's been saturated with urine and in dirty night clothes with no fluids nearby, and the daughter felt that she had a dry mouth. Beryl's daughter always visits late in the morning, so we would expect somebody to have already had their continence care, personal care, breakfast and fluids by that point. Beryl's daughter advised this happened on at least 4 occasions recently in times that she has visited. But this could have happened more often because there are days where her daughter doesn't visit. It is reported that although staff do attend to Beryl when her daughter requests this, it is often difficult to find a staff member to report the concerns to. This would cause concern if the staffing levels are correct and whether or not Beryl has actually been seen already that day.
So, as a part of our safeguard concern, as a worker, as a social worker, what we have to do is actually break things down a little bit. And these questions here are a useful sort of guide as to working out actually what are the concerns and what we need to do. So, the first thing will be to say, well, what is the actual incident? So, from that example that's been given, well, we can see that Beryl hasn't been receiving personal care, so she's actually being left in dirty clothes and dirty continence pads. So that will be the incident. And from that, we identify what is the form of abuse. In Beryl's instance, that will be neglect. So she's in a care home, she's in a residential care home, and staff are meant to be looking after her. And so they're neglecting to do their duties. So what do we know? We know that her daughter visits her and visits her regularly, and she's seen this the way that Beryl's been about 4 times now. But what do we need to know and why? Well, we don't know if that's just in a short space of time, or is that 4 times recently over a period of month. Getting a bit more information actually gives us a better idea to be able to work out actually what is the risk to this lady. If this is something that's happening over 4 days and she's got a really dry mouth and she's not having fluids, that's very different to on an occasion once a week or once every 2 weeks she's not having a drink. So that's why it's really important to get that information. And we can get that information by asking for care records from the care home. As the statutory body, we and the local authority, we've got the right to request that information, and the care homes have to provide that to work alongside us. So people we might need to contact and why. First and foremost, always try and speak to Beryl. always try and talk to the person to see what actually is going on for them. It might be that Beryl doesn't get on with her daughter, and actually there's a little bit of sort of friction going on, and her daughter's stirring things up for Beryl. So that's why it's really important. Speak to Beryl, find out actually what's going on for her. But you can speak to the daughter. It might be there's other family members. It might be you need to speak to a GP. It might be you speak to the care staff and the care manager to get a better understanding of the situation and what's happening. And from that, that's what's going to help us, and that's what's going to inform our decision making. We can't go in and decide, yes, this person's been neglected, if we don't have all the information. If we haven't asked questions and uncovered as much as we can, we might actually be making the wrong decision and saying that this safeguard has actually been what we would say is substantiated, which means, yes, we agree that there has been an element of neglect that's taken place, when actually we haven't got the full story. And so, and other things that we might use to help our inquiry. So that's about our real collaborative work. We would also make sure that we look at all the past history. Have there been other safeguards raised around the same incident? Is this a really historic thing? Is it something that's ongoing? Are there other people in the care home who are also being impacted by this level of care from staff? So it's really good to be curious, to use, we use systemic practice, which is looking at the systems around, looking at what's going on to be able to help us get a better understanding.
Thank you, Ruth. So managing the risk. It's really important any risk is identified and managed effectively. So how will the risk be managed? In order to manage risk, we need to understand the incident, what has occurred, and how it has occurred in the first instance. As Ruth's already explained, that it can be done through the information gathering process and gathering evidence to understand what needs to change. We also have the use of a shared care record where we can have a look to see if there has been any GP involvement or any other professionals involved at this stage. For instance, it may actually be not the care home that's neglecting Beryl. Beryl may have a deterioration in their mental health, for example, and actually be declining the care. And you need to be aware that we cannot enforce care on any adult, regardless if they have capacity or not. This would have to be in order through the court. So what tools can be used to explore the level of risk? So firstly, as I've just mentioned, we can use the Mental Capacity Act with Beryl to understand if she understands her care and support needs. We can use the Wonnacott matrix. So the Wonnacott matrix is a tool which we can say, what do we know? What do we not know? What is ambiguous? You can compartmentalize all of your thoughts, and it's a tool used to really understand what further information we need and what risks have already identified. In Essex, we have a tool which has been created, which is for the whole of the workforce to use, called the Risk Priority Matrix. There are a number of identified risks which we can have a look at, and they are levelled either P1, P2, P3. The P stands for priority. So is it a priority that the risk is being managed at this stage? Is there something further we can do? Do we need to continue to monitor? And actually, we do not feel there's really a risk at this stage. So we use all of those tools to understand the priority and the risk towards Beryl, and then we will put in what we call a risk management plan. So if we go for the example that actually the care hasn't been provided to Beryl, they've been really busy, they've been very short-staffed, a high turnover of staff, we may refer to what we call our organisational safeguard team, for example, because at that point we would recognise that it's not only Beryl at risk in that care home, it may be all other residents. They can work with the care home to reduce that risk by ensuring they work with them to look at their staffing, how they deliver the care and support, and what they need to do to improve their standards of care. It may be, for example, that we say actually she needs to be on observations every half an hour rather than hourly, because it could be that when Ruth has gathered her information, for example, actually they are delivering the personal care, but this lady has a high level of continence and actually she has a condition that makes her mouth dry. So there may be sort of room for working with the GP and collaboratively with other organisations to ensure that those are addressed through medication, for example, or the continence team. We also need to understand if there's any other risks rather than just a dry mouth and poor personal hygiene. So if somebody, for example, is sitting in wet continence pads for a very long period of time repeatedly, this could cause pressure areas and pressure sores, which could lead, unfortunately, to sepsis and ultimately lead to death. We may wish the continence team to come in and support to address how they can better support the continence areas. So there's lots of things we can do. And as you can see, one of those things would be referring and having an MDT approach to supporting Beryl. It may be that just the risk management plans and the care plans within the care home need updating, which we will support to do if it's necessary. We also need to understand, actually, is this the right placement for Beryl? She may now have nursing needs, for example, in which case we would complete what we call a continuing health care checklist, which can be found on the internet if you want to have a look at that at another time. This is the initial assessment that leads to the decision support tool to see if there's a primary health need or if there's a nursing care element. So it may be that the residential home is not actually equipped to manage all of Beryl's needs. So there's many things that we can do. We can work with the family around expectation as well. Sometimes family feel that somebody should have somebody with them a one-to-one, and as soon as they unfortunately pass urine, that pad needs to be changed. This is not always possible because there's other people in the residential care that also need continence care and personal care, and not everybody can have somebody with them 24 hours a day. So as you can see, there's lots of things that can be done. All of these actions that we would recommend go into what we call a risk management plan. That is shared with all organisation and parties involved in the safeguarding, as well as the adult and the family. And everybody has to sign up to say, this is what we will do to ensure this adult's care and support needs are effectively met and the adult remains safe. How can we monitor the risk? We will undertake reviews regularly. The local authority has a statutory responsibility to review every adult's care and support plan at least once every 12 months. The risk management plan would be reviewed within 4 to 6 weeks, as with the care and support. We always do a follow-up review following a safeguard or any changes made to a risk assessment or care and support plan for all adults, regardless of what that need is or the level of support offered. Thank you.